Okay, happy Thursday, everyone. I'm going to be talking about your Unit 7 and 8. I'm really sorry that we can't be in lab to go through this together. I'm really hoping that when this is all finished, maybe fall term sometime, whenever we get back at school, I would like to organize some open labs so that you have an opportunity to make these compounds if that's what you choose to do. But for now, this is the best we got. So I'm going to walk you through 7 and 8. You do not have the supplies at home to make these compounds. However, I would encourage you to practice your documentation and your math going through these units. So we have 7 and 8, which is uploaded on Moodle, and then we have Unit 9, which will be gels, which I will upload for next week, along with demo videos like this one. And unfortunately, just trying to make sure that we're really cutting it down to the essentials. I've pulled the specialty products, mostly because it's very difficult for me to display them at home. But again, I would really like to set up an open lab whenever we can in the future, to have the opportunity to show you guys kind of what that looks like. Anyways, okay, so here's 7 and 8. I believe these got put in your kits. If not, they are on Moodle. Okay, so some things that are in here, what it looks like. We have here a practice activity, a compounding review. Just kind of going to cover some of the questions that we're looking at. There is a key for this posted on Moodle as well. Okay, so from your lab manual, previous notes, or just, from your own knowledge from what we've talked about in class, I just want you to go through and answer these questions. Practice doing some beyond use dating, specific gravity things. And then on the one on Moodle, there is some extra information just about some different ingredients right at the end there that we didn't really cover in class. But the information is there for you on the key. These are the basics that I wanted you to worry about, so that's why this is on this one. Okay, so we have 2 compounds in here. We have a calamine cream, and then we have a prescription for a lanolin foot ointment. Okay, so this video, I'm going to cover the calamine paste that we're going to make, and then I'll do a separate video for the foot ointment. Okay. So, first thing that I'd like to note is for the first time through the whole term, this is your only prescription. That's just the prescription, and I didn't give you a master formula for it. Now, technically, we are supposed to have a master formula for every compound that we make. So if you had a prescription like this, normally what's going to happen in practice is we will follow just exactly what the prescription says. So this has calamine, white petrolatum, and cream 1:1:2 ratio, okay? So it's very common in practice for us to get topical prescriptions like this, where we're going to have to do the math of what is 1 part calamine, what is 1 part white petrolatum, and what is 2 parts cream. And we will do the math. You would, master formula, we don't have one, so we would have to clear that with a pharmacist that we were okay to do it that way. But that's very common in practice to get topical prescriptions that look like this. This just has here, apply paste to rash 3 times a day for 10 days, which is a very common use for calamine. Okay, so that's often used for a rash. I don't know if anyone had chickenpox when they were younger, but calamine lotion and things like that are very common to help with things that are itchy and swollen. Okay, so I'll show you a little bit here. When you're doing the math for this one, we've got our calamine, white petrolatum. Now, our prescription didn't specify which one, so we can use a generic white petrolatum or Vaseline, which is white petrolatum. Okay, this also just says cream. Okay, so that's going to be dependent on what you want to use. So like I said, when we're in lab, we generally have two kinds that we use. We've got our Galaxol base and our Atlas base. And I brought Galaxol base home, so that's what I'm going to use for this video to mix together, as well as Vaseline. Now, I couldn't bring any drug out of the lab because of the law. So calamine is a fairly fine powder, and it's pink. Again, I'd love to have an open lab where you could actually see it, but what I did for my at-home calamine powder is I've got the red sprinkles that I bought for when I made cookies at Valentine's Day, and then I mixed them together with icing sugar in my food processor just to try and get the consistency and color I was looking for. It's nowhere near as pink as calamine is, but I'm hoping that it works out visually and kind of will look the same. Petrolatum, yeah. Okay, so, and cream. Ooh. I'm just going to fold that over and we're going to do our math. So our prescription here is for 30 grams. And if we look here, we have 1 part, 1 part, and 2 parts. So we have 4 parts total. Okay. So our calamine is going to be 1/4 for our calamine over 30 grams. X equals, and then for our white petrolatum, it's going to be 1/4 as well, X over 30 grams. Sorry, I'll move that over here. And for our cream, it's going to be 2/4 over 30 grams. And then we'll do our math here. So 30 times 1 divided by 4, going to be 8 grams. So this will be the same because they're both 1/4. And if we go times 2, because it's going to be 2 parts. Oh, hang on a second though. That doesn't make sense. Okay, well, welcome back everyone. Sorry, I cut that video out. So what happened was, I bought this calculator at the dollar store, and it has this function right here. When you click it over, it doesn't let you do decimal places, so my math was wrong because 30 divided by 4 is 7.5, not 8. So this is our math corrected. So we're going to need 7.5 grams of calamine, 7.5 grams of white petrolatum, and 15 grams of our cream for a total of 30 grams, which is correct, not 32 grams from my cheap calculator that lied to me. So anyways, also just in between, because I obviously kind of paused the videos here, I did do a test run with my sprinkle calamine, and it did not work out very well. So I went and I bought this blush, and we're going to try and use that instead to make our calamine. So we're going to make this product, and I hope this is okay. I don't know if this is better. Yeah, I don't know if that light's really making a difference, but anyways, we'll put it here anyway. We're going to make this paste on an ointment slab, not on paper, because it is going to get quite thick as a paste, and we wouldn't want to rip through our paper. Okay. Another thing to note, I do have 2 spatulas here. We are not going to use the metal one because this is glass and I don't want to scratch it. So we're going to use our plastic spatula. Okay. So we have 3 ingredients for this compound. We have our drug, the Vaseline and the cream. So I'm just gonna break up this blush. And if I was in lab, I would measure these things. This says it's 5 grams, so we're gonna go with that. And hopefully that's gonna work a lot better than the sugar and sprinkles, and should actually go into the Vaseline, and who knows, maybe it'll be really pretty. Okay, so sorry, what was I saying? This is our calamine, and then whenever I have something that has 3 ingredients, I try to kind of mix 2 of them together first. So this is our Vaseline, and we're going to mix these 2 together. Now, I didn't weigh it out because I also do not have a scale at home. But if I was in lab, obviously I would measure 7.5 grams of the calamine and 7.5 grams of the Vaseline and then mix them together. But we do what we can do. So because these are the same amount, we're going to go ahead and just mix them right together because that's still following our rules for our geometric dilution. Okay. So there we go. We're kind of just going to scrape it up and fold it over and do that S motion. Now I thought blush would be a very good example to use because it is a powder, and what we want to get is where we're not oh, hang on, I do have a light. Oh yeah, that's gonna work good. Okay, sorry. So we're gonna get to where we don't want streaks of powder coming through, and I hope you can kind of see that. There's some parts that are mixed and some parts like here where there's little pockets of powder, and that's true to how calamine behaves as well. Okay. Who knows, maybe I'll just get it really nice. Oh yeah, this is great. This is much better than the sugar. This is exactly how calamine works. So I hope that you guys can see that, where I'm pushing and I kind of have little spots where the powder kind of keeps popping through. So this is going to take me a little while to get it to where it's not doing that, which is true to when we're doing it in lab too. And it is quite stiff. That's why I wanted it on the glass slab and not on paper. It's taken a hefty amount of force to kind of get that to go through. Okay. Yep, it's gonna take a while. Sorry, I'm just gonna keep mixing. Sorry if I'm breathing into the microphone. Oh, so good. I'm just really happy because that's really what calamine's like when you're mixing it. I hope you can see, again, we've just got these little spots of color. So it's really important to mix it until you don't get those streaks coming through. You see that? When you get those streaks of just powder, we gotta mix it until those don't come through. And it's all the same color. Now calamine wouldn't get this red. It kind of stays a light pink, but hey, for what we've got, this is pretty great actually. Okay. Let's see if I can get it to do that. Okay, so hopefully, as you can see, that took quite a while and a lot of mixing, and I had to spread it out to get it pretty thin to kind of get all those lumps and bumps out. And it's still not quite perfect, but it's pretty dang good. I've been mixing and I haven't seen a ton of streaks. I don't know if you can see this. It's still kind of bumpy. But I think most of those are actually just air bubbles instead of pockets of pigment. So I'm pretty happy with that, considering this is blush and not calamine, but that's pretty close to how that goes when you're making it with actual calamine. The color's much darker than what the Calamine paste usually is, but that process is pretty much the same. Kind of got a finger cramp here from holding my spatula, so I spared you all the finger cramp that you would have gotten lab doing this one. This one is one of those ones that takes a long time to make. Okay. So now that I've got my Vaseline and my calamine all mixed together, we're ready to add cream. Again, I don't have a scale here at home, but this would be the remaining 15 grams. And again, we've just added 17 and a half and 17 and a half. So it should be about the same amount of cream of what we have here volume wise, which is great. Okay, now I know that my Vaseline looks bigger on the screen, but when you actually kind of pile it up, those two are about the same. So we're just gonna do, this is our final step, we're gonna mix these two together, and we'll see how I did on my Vaseline and pigment. So again, we're just gonna fold it over and mix these together. And as you can see, the thicker it is, the more I'm spreading out my product. I've almost got it all over my ointment pad here. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. You just do your best. Okay, I'm gonna mix them together. Maybe I'll just have a really nice cream blush at the end of this. It's a lot of work though. Okay, so we're just gonna go through that until it's uniform. So as you can see, as I'm mixing, we kind of get these streaks of color. And we just want to mix until that's not really the case. Man, I'm really happy with how this turned out. For not having calamine, I think this is like best case scenario. This is really what this one looks like often when you make it. Okay, so we're just gonna mix until we don't get any more of those streaks together. And it's all one homogeneous, uniform color. Now, following geometric dilution, we could have also taken just 7.5 of each and mixed them together, but it wouldn't have worked out very nicely at the end, because you would have had not an equal amount to mix together. So again, we're just gonna mix and mix and mix until this is all the same color and we don't get those little pockets of pigment popping through. Okay, I'm gonna hyperlapse again because this is gonna take a while. And I don't feel like talking for that long, and I don't think y'all want to listen to me either. So we're just gonna so as you can see, that's a pretty time-consuming process. I did the best I could here. It could probably use a little bit more mixing. As you can see here, there's still some Vaseline with pigment over here to work in, and you can still see, or at least I can from where I am, there's still some pockets. But I don't think that I need to make this video an hour long. Sorry, I just had to switch my gloves. And yeah, so I don't know if you guys can see. There's still some little specks in there that aren't quite mixed in, but I'm having a really hard time getting them to break up. And I think that just might be because it's makeup and not the true calamine powder. But I'm pretty happy with how that worked out, actually. So what we're going to do now is package it. If I can find my ointment pots. Sorry about that. Okay, so if you were watching the hyperlapse, you might have seen me do this. I obviously have a lot of product on my spatula, so trying to scrape that off into a pot right now feels like it's going to be a mess. As you can see, I've used almost all of my ointment slab. Typically in this lab, this is the product that we have the lowest percent yield with. So what I'm going to do, just to clean up my spatula, I've taken my second spatula and I'm using my metal one. That's okay, just as long as I'm gentle and I'm not scraping off pieces of the actual spatula. So I'm going to scrape up the side and kind of just pick it up so there's a blob here on the end, and do the same on the other side. So I'm cleaning off that excess, and then I'm just kind of going to go back and forth on my spatulas, cleaning that up. Again, being gentle. If you push too hard with this one, you'll actually get little bits of black plastic in your compound, which is not ideal. So, you know, we're not sharpening a knife right now. We're just very gently trying to get off that excess if we can, because we will lose lots of product on this one, which is okay. In practice, a lot of the time, if we have a compound where we know we're going to lose a lot in the process of making it, we will calculate for that and do a little bit of extra. So I'm going to package this just like we package everything else. Oh, whoops, not like that. Again, do as I say, not as I do. So we're just going to scrape it in like that and tap it in. Okay. There we go. It is quite a nice color. I might be silly and wear it as blush, because why not? Okay. So just in portions, we're going to tap it in there. I didn't grab the right size of ointment pot for this one. So I have 2 ointment pots that I'm going to fill. So here's my first one. I guess we can leave it over here. You can still see it. Whoops. And my second one. Okay, and I do my best just to get it all off. Especially with one like this. Like I said, you're going to lose a lot of product, but you just do your best to try and get what you can off. I hope it's clearer now too why it's super important to use the glass slab instead of the paper one. We definitely would have ripped through our paper with all of that mixing that had to be done. Okay. Now we're just going to scrape off what we can. And they're not equally filled, so I'm going to try and fix that at least a little bit. Because there will be times when this will happen in the pharmacy too, where we don't have, like we might give them 2, or the patient asks for 2, they want one at work and they want one, you know, at home or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and try and get this to look pretty. Okay, so again, at that 45-degree angle, just kind of scraping down the sides as I go, bringing it to the middle, and picking it up. So we've got that kind of Dairy Queen swirl in there. I've obviously lost some product, and I will clean that up a little bit more in just a minute. Okay, so we're going to do the same. I'm going to scrape that product into my second one. Scrape down the sides. Oh, I don't like it, so I'm going to do it again. It's too fat of a Dairy Queen swirl, not squirrel. Okay. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, so I hope you guys can see that kind of pick up there. I've obviously still lost a lot on my spatula. Yeah, this one's hard. You're going to lose product, obviously. You lose it on your hands. This is my second pair of gloves too. I did lose some on my hands because you're mixing it so much. It gets on your spatula, it gets on your hands. It is messy and a little cumbersome. Like I said, in practice, a lot of the time what we're going to do is actually calculate for maybe 10% extra, just so that we're in that range. Sometimes I've even done 15, depending. If it's a small amount, you're going to lose more. So we've got that cleaned off there. Now I'm going to clean up my bottles, or my ointment pots rather, sorry. You can see they're quite messy from my messy gloves and just from the process of getting everything in there. So we're going to wipe down the outside. Yeah, I hope that you guys see this and know I am quite an experienced compounder. Sometimes compounding just gets messy. We do our best. I think that's why I'm so adamant on saying try to keep things in control, because we want to avoid messes as much as we can. But when you're mixing things together, sometimes it's just unavoidable. Okay, so we're going to clean out those threads. Okay, get all the pigment off. I think it shows up especially on something like this because it's so pink on so white. I'm really happy with how the blush worked out, actually. It's very similar to actual calamine powder. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that one. I'm just going to keep going just a little bit there. Just get it out of the thread. I'll clean the inside there in just a minute. Okay, we're going to do the outside of this one. Okay, again, we want to be thorough because our patient, their level of trust in the product is going to start as soon as they pick up their ointment pot. And if their ointment pot is oily or greasy and it's messy and it has your, gloved hand fingerprints all over it, they're not going to trust that it's the right thing, or they're going to think that you did it sloppily or, didn't take care to make sure that that product was going to be perfect. So I really think it's important to take pride in your final product and make sure what you're sending out to the patient looks good. Okay, so my last step that I'm going to do for cleaning those bottles is I'm going to take my paper towel and fold it so that I get a nice point that's pretty stiff. And I'm just going to take my finger on the point and just clean up the inside of this bottle. I know when we've done this before, it was with white cream, so it maybe doesn't feel like it makes that big of a difference. And obviously I'm losing some product here. But again, it's so important that our patient feels like what they're getting is a good product. And it's like one of my biggest pet peeves when technicians or pharmacists don't take the time to make their product look nice. Because really, it takes an extra maybe 5 minutes, and it's just going to make a big difference to our patient. Okay, so I'm not going to make you sit through me doing that to 2 different ointment pots, because I think you get the gist. But that looks much better opening than that. Right, if I went into Sephora and this was my cream blush that I bought and I opened it and looked like that, I'd be very concerned that someone else had already used it versus that, which is very clean, very nice. I'm going to trust that product. So that's the end goal that we're looking for there. I'm glad that it's colored because I feel like you can see it much better. And that's going to be our calamine paste. So we would label it. Make sure, maybe give it a wipe down with some alcohol just to get some of that kind of oily residue off the outside, and call it a day. So that's your first compound.